Are there any grave issues that would keep Team USA from winning a gold medal?
Should they be minus 430 against the field or whatever the price is right now? Maybe. But am I looking at, hey, Europe as a continent to win the Olympics at plus 500 as an interesting bet? Yeah, because one, they have 5 teams in the Olympics out of the 12.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Where are you at in terms of a starting lineup, what you want to see from Team USA?
I think he'll get guys involved, and then there's your lockdown defender at the point guard, the point of attack, right? I do like Curry. I would then go with Ant. I like Ant over Booker. I think if you look at the way the Canada game was, they looked kind of slow starting, and then they kind of got rolling.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
He talked about Major League Baseball and its rule, or actually its relationship with sports betting and gambling.
Integrity is the foremost concern, and a lot of people are questioning that given all the scandals, right? There's Mercano, there's Pat Hoberg, one of the best umpires in MLB, suspended right now. We don't exactly know what he did, but he's been disciplined, and he hasn't umpired a game this year.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Their coach has a personality that is New York City. Tough, grinding, defensive, no holds barred. We muck this game up and we make you play it our way. And Tibbs has been rewarded. And he should be rewarded for what he's done with the Knicks.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Level 3 continues. This is SportsRage. I am Morency. Let's do this thing. So Canada, one of the biggest upsets ever today. And I'm not just saying that. Like the announcers were flipping out. 70,000 fans stunned in the stadium. Canada's women's rugby team, rugby sevens, upsets France, the host nation, who were pre-tournament favorites to win. All right, they were supposed to win the entire thing and win the gold medal. They were getting 19.5 points, Canada. They win the game outright. Now they're getting 17.5 against Australia. And Australia absolutely murdered Ireland today. But at this point, like, it's hard to go against them when they, when they hang around. Like I said, too, these games are so freaking fast. These rugby 7 games, like they're the clock really goes quickly. So you score, if you score early, there's like incredibly like massive points spread swings in this stuff. Like I was watching a game today, and so France were 19.5 point favorites. Canada scored first, and it's like football. So, but in rugby and rugby sevens, you get 5 points for the goal for scoring, and then you get 2 points for the kick after, right? And they missed the kick a lot. Like, it's sort of 50-50 with the kicks. So that's why I was like 19-14. But, like, if you get, if you score the 5, you get the 2, you get 7. So Canada scored, and they made the point. They got the 7. And it went from 19.5 to 7.5 with one score. You know what I'm saying? So, like, Canada's getting 17.5 here against Australia. If they score early, suddenly they're going to be like 6.5, 7.5 point underdogs only with one score. It's like massive swings because the game is so short. But like I said, I know Australia are really good, and oftentimes team off a massive upset will lose the next game. But maybe we have like a miracle on ice type thing. And same thing, the U.S. women have never gotten this far before. Nice win for the U.S. women today against Great Britain. And the U.S. are getting 18.5 points against New Zealand, who murder everybody as well. So it kind of feels like New Zealand, Australia are on a collision course, but I'm going to take my shot here. It's not a money line sport, this, like if you'll notice. It's point spreads. They're very big on point spreads. Like you can bet the money line, but it's 3-way with a draw, and they're really, really big numbers. So if you like the underdog, you get paid well. But so Canada, I'll take my chances with Canada plus 17.5 and the USA plus 18.5. As long as if I get a split, I'll move on. I'll just have fun with it. But if either one of them could just score early, they can cover these point spreads because the games are so freaking short. So we were talking about the basketball. Fired up. We'll go over to basketball as well. There's some swimming coming up at 2 a.m. here. And we've got a bunch of swimming picks for you that we'll go over. Our boy Mo Khan is going to step up and in. We'll talk some Olympics with Mo, the U.S. men's basketball team, rolling. And there's some great shots out there. Damn, I want to get to the best of X, but I started rolling here. We'll get to it after. But there was a great shot, great video of Anthony Edwards. So last night, actually, there's KD and LeBron went out in Paris to some, hip place. So, the U.S. team is not stressing anything, okay? So LeBron and KD went out at 3 a.m. There was, pictures of them. Anthony Edwards is going and watching the table tennis. Let's roll. This is Sports Rage. I am Gabriel Morency. The pips, the players, the hustlers, the people that bust them, and everybody else in between. Let's do this thing. The Monday Night Meltdown continues. Shout out to all of our AM radio affiliates stepping up and in and joining us. The Money or 1090 ESPN Radio, SoCal in the house. We've got Olympic fever. Forget about people boycotting the games. Evidently, you know what? Whenever people get mad about something and say, I'm never going to watch again, fine. That's your personal choice. Nobody is forcing you to watch anything. But why anybody thinks that their opinion matters enough that, it's somehow going to affect something, right? Oh, I'm not going to watch the Olympics. Well, you know what? NBC had over 41 million viewers on Sunday, okay? 41 million. 28 million people watched the opening ceremony. And in fact, NBC's had its highest numbers for the Olympics since the 2012 games that were in London that set up nicely for them. So evidently people are watching. People watch the U.S. women's team roll Japan today, although a spirited effort from the Japanese. Team USA ends up covering the number. Game goes over the number. And a super impressive streak that the U.S. women's team has going on right now, guys. 56 consecutive wins right now for the U.S. women's team in the Olympics. 56 wins in a row. Not talked about enough as far as great streaks in sports. Very impressive, and I don't think anybody's going to be able to challenge the U.S. Women's team. Is anyone going to be able to challenge the men's team? So, LeBron James and Kevin Durant don't think so. As the European paparazzi all over LeBron James last night, who went out to one of the hottest nightclubs in Paris. Hey, why not? You're there, right? Why not enjoy yourselves? I just love it, though. They're so casual. They're going out at 3 a.m. in Paris. Anthony Edwards is hanging out watching a table tennis. Meanwhile, you can't make this up, man. A girl on South Korea got sent home for the Olympics. Underage smoking. She smoked a cigarette, and they booted her. There's a Brazilian swimmer, too, that broke, evidently, the Brazilian swim team. The Brazilian swim team. Really, you trained for 4 years for the effing Olympics, and you do this stuff? So the girl that smoked, whatever. Well, that's the stupidest thing ever. We'll get that story. It's like the kid that couldn't play at BYU because he had sex. You know the rules going in, right? You know the rules going in. But there's a girl on the Brazilian swim team. I guess she's good, too. But they kicked her off the team, and they sent her home because there was a curfew. Because they lost the meet, and they all went back to the village, and the coach was all mad, and he told everybody, all right, nobody goes out, and we got to regroup, and there's still events. And she snuck out of the village to be with her boyfriend, who's another former Olympian or something like that. So they booted her ass. Yet the Netherlands have a dude that was convicted it's too graphic to even say, but we talked about it. Seriously, you're sending people home because they had sex or because they had a cigarette. Yet there's a dude that was convicted of having sex with a 12-year-old, yet he's playing in the Olympics for the Netherlands. He's playing. Like, seriously. Yet the Canadian women get stripped 6 points. You know, there's a lot of politics and ridiculous and sexism going on. It's pretty clear. Like, you know, men get away with everything. A woman, oh, you flew a drone, 6 points, you know. But Canada can still actually advance. One thing we'll say about the Olympics, Coco Gauff and company and a lot of her teammates in the Olympic Village left the Olympic Village to go check into a hotel, and she's not the only one. I love the Olympics, and I love the athletes. I love the sporting events and stuff, but the Olympic Committee makes the NCAA look humble in their greed. Like, the Olympians aren't getting paid. Like, yeah, the Olympic Committee's like some of these countries, oh, here's $50K because you want a gold medal and whatnot, right? In some of the countries it matters. But the Olympics themselves, there's no financial compensation for any of these athletes. And as I just went over the numbers, 41 million people watched the NBC platforms on Peacock Online and NBC TV on Sunday yesterday. 41 million people. 28 million people watching the United States alone. Over 1 billion people watch the Olympics. Over 1 billion. Let me repeat that. 1 billion people. All right? So that's like 10 Super Bowls type of deal. And they're not getting paid. And it turns out there's not enough food in the village. The athletes are sleeping on cardboard boxes. And they made a mandate that 60% of the food had to be plant-based vegan.
Are there any grave issues that would keep Team USA from winning a gold medal?
Should they be minus 430 against the field or whatever the price is right now? Maybe. But am I looking at, hey, Europe as a continent to win the Olympics at plus 500 as an interesting bet? Yeah, because one, they have 5 teams in the Olympics out of the 12.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Where are you at in terms of a starting lineup? What you want to see from Team USA?
I think he'll get guys involved, and then there's your lockdown defender at the point guard, the point of attack, right? I do like Curry. I would then go with Ant. I like Ant over Booker. I think if you look at the way the Canada game was, they looked kind of slow starting, and then they kind of got rolling.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
He talked about Major League Baseball and its rule, or actually its relationship with sports betting and gambling.
Integrity is the foremost concern, and a lot of people are questioning that given all the scandals, right? There's Mercano, there's Pat Hoberg, one of the best umpires in MLB, suspended right now. We don't exactly know what he did, but he's been disciplined, and he hasn't umpired a game this year.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Their coach has a personality that is New York City. Tough, grinding, defensive, no holds barred. We muck this game up and we make you play it our way. And Tips has been rewarded, and he should be rewarded for what he's done with the Knicks.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
This is Sports Rage. I am Gabriel Morency, and the pitch suppliers, the hustlers, the people that bust them, and everybody else in between. And I actually do have some rage off the top here. And let's start off. We're talking about the Olympics, and we'll get to the picks. And like I said, I've always loved the Olympics. I've been to the Olympics before. Really enjoy it. You know, I'm not sentimental Mark and stuff like that. My grandfather played in the Olympics. I wanted to be a goalie in the Olympics as well. So I've always had a soft spot in my heart for the Olympics. But at the same point in time, their level of greed, knows no bounds. And like I said, like if you think the NCAA is bad with free labor, like if you think about it, like the television rights, we're not talking about buying the rights to the MAC conference here or something. It's not like you're paying for the Sun Belt. These Olympic rights are literally billions of dollars for television rights, okay? So, and the networks wouldn't do it unless they were making their money back. So the networks are literally making hundreds of millions of dollars in profit. All right, they're not making billions, but all right, hey, with the Olympics, and we ended up making $213 million or whatever, and all the press we got. So like they're making money off the Olympics. The networks are making money. The corporate suits, like, hey, you know what I mean? How many people are at the USA Soccer Federation and the team, and how many of you are staying in 5-star hotels and checking accounts and on the team account? Like everybody's living large, but the players, the actual athletes themselves, almost like, well, you're lucky to be here. And the least you can effing do, okay? The least you can do is at least feed them properly. This happens all the time. And you figure, oh, France is going to be great. Man, they got great food. Yeah, they got great food, but not for the athletes, they don't. Right? They literally ran out of food on Saturday morning. Imagine you're at the Olympics and you go to the cafeteria and they tell you live in the Olympic Village. You go to the cafeteria and there's no food. And I think people, and we'll bring Mo Khan in a second, but I think people like flip out about the woke stuff too much in this world. Everyone complains about everything. Oh, this is that, and this is that, and like everything is woke, and everyone hates everything now. But even me, I got to tell you, whose effing idea thought it would be a good idea to make a mandate? So France made a mandate that they couldn't all be meat, so they made it 60%. 60% vegan and or plant-based foods. And it turned out they ran out of meat and dairy products immediately because nobody wants to eat that vegan plant crap that I wouldn't eat. Like, I'd rather eat dirt than I don't eat no plant. I don't know, I smoke plants. I don't eat them. So they're Olympian athletes. They eat meat. I hate to tell you. Like I said, you know what I mean? I don't know, like it is what it is. Like to perform at the levels they do. Now, I'm not saying there's some vegan athletes that perform well, but they choose that and they're used to that. They don't show up and then, oh, by the way, we don't have any meat this morning. We don't have any eggs this morning, but want to eat this plant, hot dog thing that we created, right? Like they created this crap. Nobody wants it, so everybody's checking out of the village. Coco Gauff got put in a hallway, in a dorm, whatever, the house she was living in, the village. She's sharing with 9 other girls. There's 10 of them, and they have 2 bathrooms. Like, it seems to me like, like Mike Tirico is sleeping in a better room than the athletes are. They're sleeping on cardboard boxes. And, like, I get it. It's like, they can't, you know what I mean? Not everyone can stay at the Ritz-Carlton. I totally understand that, but this has just been a debacle, and it's affecting athletes' performances. As even Titmus, who won a gold medal, said, I never had a hope in hell of setting a world record because I didn't eat properly. And she said, but I'll tell you what. She goes, it's fair because no one else is eating properly here either. And she was like saying it's basically a battle of wills. Let's bring in Mo Khan right now. Mo, like I said, dude, like even the NCAA, bro, like feeds the kids. Like it's just so disgraceful. Like the athletes don't get paid, but they have to scrounge for food, Mo. And I read a story about an athlete broke the bed and he had to like go and buy a mattress. He said, screw this. And he got a mattress and he brought his own mattress into the Olympic Village. Coco Gauff and the 10 players said, screw this. We're going to stay in a hotel. The South Korean like cycling team checked out of the village because it's like a 2.5 hour there and back to the site. And they said, what are you doing to us? And they said, we're going to stay at a hotel near the venue. Like, dude, they care about everything except the athletes, Mo.
Well, first off, Gabe, I'm actually vegetarian. So, but I will say this though, they have to have more meat products. It's asinine they don't have enough meat products for those who want to have meat for their diets that you require. Because remember, Gabe, Michael Phelps, when he would in his prime Olympic years, I think ate like over 10,000 calories like in the first 6 hours of every day. Like, and that's the thing. You need to have the proper nutrients to fill your body like it's a Ferrari car out there. So I really feel for these athletes. But also, Gabe, you brought up the point about, feeding these athletes. Remember, the NCAA for years did not feed its athletes until I think the last 10 years when they actually said, holy bleep, we need to give these guys more to work with. And guess what? The NCAA now is a lost cause. But this has been a complete disaster when you look at these athletes not being given the same equal rights that's required, the basic minimum rights to have food and to have proper housing for them to get the proper sleep required. Because if they don't, Gabe, we won't see any records be broken in the next 10 to 12 days left of the Olympic Games.
Well, and it's funny, how many world records have been set, Mo? Like none? And athletes are talking about this, and they're saying, well, it's just a battle to compete on our diet right now. Yet, let me ask you at the same point in time, wouldn't, you should expect this. And, honestly, we've heard in the past that teams don't play around. You follow soccer closely. You know what I mean? Like the English soccer team and the French soccer team, they don't just say, well, let's hope that the food is good where we're going. No. They bring their own guys and they bring their own food along, bro. They'll go out and get their own food. They'll set up their own catering and their own kitchen for their team. You've got to do that in these situations.
You do. And the thing is, right, if they don't do that, Gabe, you're cutting corners. And who's cutting corners? Is it the IOC or is it the governing body of those countries that don't want to put
that know their athletes are getting screwed? You're right.
Exactly.
But like I said at the top, they're the ones that are staying at the Chateau Marmont right now in Paris. Right? They're having a glass of wine, and there's some athlete spinning on a cardboard box thinking, man, I got a swimming race in 6 hours.
Are there any grave issues that would keep Team USA from winning a gold medal?
Should they be minus 430 against the field or whatever the price is right now? Maybe. But am I looking at, hey, Europe as a continent to win the Olympics at plus 500 as an interesting bet? Yeah, because one, they have 5 teams in the Olympics out of the 12.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Where are you at in terms of a starting lineup, what you want to see from Team USA?
I think he'll get guys involved, and then there's your lockdown defender at the point guard, the point of attack, right? I do like Curry. I would then go with Ant. I like Ant over Booker. I think if you look at the way the Canada game was, they looked kind of slow starting, and then they kind of got rolling.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
He talked about Major League Baseball and its rule, or actually its relationship with sports betting and gambling.
Integrity is the foremost concern, and a lot of people are questioning that given all the scandals, right? There's Mercano, there's Pat Hoberg, one of the best umpires in MLB, suspended right now. We don't exactly know what he did, but he's been disciplined, and he hasn't umpired a game this year.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Their coach has a personality that is New York City. Tough, grinding, defensive, no holds barred. We muck this game up and we make you play it our way. And Tibbs has been rewarded, and he should be rewarded for what he's done with the Knicks.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
This is SportsRage. I'm Morency. Quickest 180 minutes in sports talk and television. Man, this show's just flown by here this evening. So, yeah, there's always, crazy stories at the Olympics. And we were talking about the lack of food. So there was a shortage of grilled meat and eggs and dairy products had to be rationed out at breakfast on Saturday, with athletes lodging complaints over measly portions they were receiving. A shortage of eggs believed to be the biggest concern. They form a crucial part of most athletes' diets due to the high protein and good fats. Australian queen of the pool, Ariana Titmus, had been left feeling depleted. The 3-time swimming gold medalist unleashing on the, quote, ridiculous condition she believes that the athletes are being forced to live in. It probably wasn't a time I thought I was capable of, but living in the Olympic Village makes it hard to perform. It's definitely not made for high performance. It's about who can really keep it together in their mind. Like I said, Mo, it's just unacceptable. The Olympic Committee says that they are working on the portions and they're going to rectify the situation, but a lot of athletes have decided to say, screw this, I'm checking out, I'm going to a hotel. And as we were talking about, Mo, here's Australian swimmer James Magnuson taking a swipe at Paris for damaging the quality of the Olympics. The lack of world records boils down to the whole eco-friendly carbon footprint, vegan-first mentality rather than high performance. They have a charter that says 60% of the food in the village has to be vegan-friendly. And the day before the opening ceremony, they ran out of meat and dairy options in the village because they didn't think that so many of us athletes would be choosing the meat over the vegan-friendly ones. So, yeah, this is quite a debacle. Never, it's the one thing I would have expected in France that would have been a problem, the food.
It's sort of like they're in a dictator country with the Olympic Games, right? Rationing food and stuff. And
yeah. Once you're in their village, bro, you live by their rules.
Pretty much, right? But that's the thing as we get deeper into this Olympic Games here, Gabe, right? If this continues to get uglier and uglier for Paris and for the French organizers, this won't die away, Gabe. And I guarantee you there'll be more and more missiles launched from these countries saying, look, guys, you better give us our food because we need our athletes to be at its peak performance for their events, whether it's in the morning, afternoon, or nighttime here. And if they're not, there are going to be less and less people, and they're going to be looking elsewhere. And Gabe, think about this, though, right? You brought up the fact that the South Korean team is 2.5 hours away from Paris, right? A little bit of a drive away. But some of these events are nowhere near Paris. So just imagine if you're going from the Olympic Village to your site games, that might be more than an hour and a half. That is going to drain your body out if you don't have the proper nutrients in your system to perform at the best that you should be on that event day.
Look at the skateboarders. The bus broke down and they had to skate 2 miles to the venue.
Nice warm-up.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny. They got in trouble because they're not allowed skateboarding in the village. And they were like, after, they said, your stupid bus broke down. That's why we were skating in the village. But this story's nuts. And, man, like, this is like anyone that's seen the episode of The Simpsons. Don't all gymnasts all smoke? Like, they're all kids. Like, isn't that the thing? Ballerinas and stuff, right? But right. Japan's top female gymnast and team captain, Shoko Miyata, has been removed from the Paris Olympics due to allegations of underage smoking. She smoked a cigarette and is in violation of Japan's Federation Code of Conduct. She was immediately sent home.
So what's the age
Japanese
for smoking?
They don't 21 in Japan. They don't play around, bro. Smoking, like underage 21. Smoking. They booted her from the Olympics for having a cigarette.
I mean, she can smoke a cigarette on the way to the airport, but that's just anyway. Those type of things are such mundane like rules. Like, why would you have that for your athletes? I mean, not every athlete's going to be clean, Gabe. Right? There are athletes.
Yeah, but not steroids, not drugs. No, she smoked a cigarette, and like I said, like it's a weight pressure sport too. You know what I mean? Like so I'm sure that had something to do with it. But wow, I just figured to throw it out there. Yeah. Next to the Canada losing to 6 points, our biggest scandal. Japanese female gymnast sent home for underage smoking. Wow. All right, on the other side, we'll get into some basketball. We got some great games coming up tonight. Giannis dropped 34 on Canada in a losing effort. Canada beat Greece by 7. They're taking on Spain. They're both 0-1, so it's a big-time game for both teams tonight. But I don't think Spain are very good, guys. They're an older team. They just don't really have anything. Greece looked pretty good against Canada. We'll break it down and more on the other side.
Are there any grave issues that would keep Team USA from winning a gold medal?
Should they be minus 430 against the field or whatever the price is right now? Maybe. But am I looking at, hey, Europe as a continent to win the Olympics at plus 500 as an interesting bet? Yeah, because one, they have 5 teams in the Olympics out of the 12.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
Where are you at in terms of a starting lineup, what you want to see from Team USA?
I think he'll get guys involved, and then there's your lockdown defender at the point guard, the point of attack, right? I do like Curry. I would then go with Ant. I like Ant over Booker. I think if you look at the way the Canada game was, they looked kind of slow starting, and then they kind of got rolling.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
He talked about Major League Baseball and its rule, or actually its relationship with sports betting and gambling.
Integrity is the foremost concern, and a lot of people are questioning that given all the scandals, right? There's Mercado, there's Pat Hoberg, one of the best umpires in MLB, suspended right now. We don't exactly know what he did, but he's been disciplined, and he hasn't umpired a game this year.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Their coach has a personality that is New York City. Tough, grinding, defensive, no holds barred. We muck this game up and we make you play it our way. And Tibbs has been rewarded, and he should be rewarded for what he's done with the Knicks.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
This is SportsRage. I'm Morency. All right, a lot of stuff to throw at Mo here. We're talking the Olympics. Let's talk about the basketball games that are coming up tonight. I gave a bunch of picks for these games. I'll go over my picks again for everybody just joining us for our AM radio affiliates. But the game starts, for those of us on the West Coast, at 2 in the morning, 5 a.m. East Coast time. Spain and Greece. And Greece are 3.5-point favorites in this basketball game. Mo, I know you saw the game against Team Canada. Giannis dropped 34. They had, Greece were popping some threes. Very competitive basketball game. Canada did get up by 15. There were a couple of times, like Canada got up by 12 in the first half, and then sort of Greece came back. And then second half, Canada went on a run again, and then Greece came back again. Made it really close late. We'll talk about the Canada-Australia game in a minute, but Spain and Greece, Spain really don't have very much, Mo. They don't have any young talent. All they really do is just bomb threes. They're old. They're slow. They're not a very good team, Spain. I think Greece are going to beat them. I think they beat them by more than 4 points. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, I agree with you, Gabe. I think Greece had a bit of a failure from their guard position on Saturday. Kalaitis, did not play like how he normally does for Greece, as we've seen him in years past. And I just thought Greece, in that game against Canada, it was sort of like Will Smith and Bel-Air Prep in the old Fresh Prince of Bel-Air episode, right? Pass the ball to Will. Pass to Giannis, and he was trying to take nothing, right? And that's what it was, really. That's what it came down to.
Yeah, 34 points.
Exactly, right? But I think Greece has more edge. They have more sandpaper to work with. They're a better rebounding team, and they can spread the court out even more. Whereas for Spain, you mentioned those key points. They remind me of a Sunday YMCA pickup basketball team, some rec league, right? That's what they are, Spain, right? They're going to hit threes. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it does not work. But I think Greece will definitely cover that spread, and they should get to 1-1 when you wake up tomorrow morning at around like 8 o'clock, Gabe.
I'll be up for this one. The question is about Canada, Australia. I generally go to bed, Mo, in between 3 and 4 a.m. to begin with.
Local.
So
right?
I'm an overnight. Yeah, West Coast time. But so the Spain-Greece game starts at 2 a.m. for me. So that's kind of perfect. So, ideally, I'd watch that game. I doze off, you know what I mean? And, problem is, Canada-Australia is a pretty big game. And I hate PVRing stuff, bro. I'm not a big PVR guy, but this is a weird time. I can't really stay up. I'm not going to bed at 7 in the morning when it's all bright out. And I'm on Pharrell's show at like noon. So, like, it's really going to ruin my day, this. So, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do. I'm probably going to end up PVRing it and whatever. I'll wake up in the morning, and before I log on or I do anything, I'll just sit here and fast forward to commercials, and I'll watch the game. I say that, but I'm probably going to end up staying up and watching the game, and maybe I'll record the second half or something. I'll see. I'll play it out. But I always say this, Mo, and I always end up staying up, bro. And I always say to myself, well, the Olympics are only every 4 years, so it's okay. And the next morning, I always super regret it, Mo. I'm like, why did I stay up to watch, like, handball last night? Because I had money on it. Like, you know what I mean? Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. You don't need to watch it, but no, I got to watch it. So Canada, Australia. I thought Canada, listen, Canada were good at times, took the pedal off the metal. The two faults for Canada, listen, RJ Barrett was great, big positive. SGA is SGA, big positive right there. But Dort getting in early foul trouble was a problem, and Dylan Brooks getting in foul trouble was a problem. They both were fouled out of the game, and Canada's not deep enough to afford that. They're their best two defenders, point blank. Hopefully they learned their lesson. Hey, this ain't the NBA, bro. You don't have 6 fouls, and they will check you on this stuff. And Brooks has a reputation coming into this. You could tell the refs are watching him, and they were on him all the time. Right. He justified. I'm not blaming him for him fouling out, but they've got to be better at that, Mo. That's something. But I thought Canada were good. Not great. Good enough to win the game. I expect Canada to be better tonight, though, Mo, against Australia. I really do.
Yeah, you know, I was talking to Dwight Walton, former Canadian Olympic national team member back in '88, and I said, Dwight, if this was 10, 12 years ago, Canada playing Greece with that type of lead that they had, they probably would have mentally crumbled and lost that game to Greece by like 3 or 4 points in the final minute of that ball game. So they had that mentality monster-like attitude now that even if they lost Dort and Brooks for durations of periods during that game, they were able to withstand that Greek storm. And the thing is, Gabe, in FIBA, and for those who are not familiar with FIBA, if you watch more NBA and college ball, they're going to call things a lot closely. And that's the thing, right? That's what happened with Lou. He got a little too close at times with his defending, and it cost him dearly. And same thing with Dylan Brooks. So I think now for Jordy Fernandez and for his Canadian staff, they got to have to educate these guys. Like, guys, pick your spots and how you get aggressive. Because if you're going to be aggressive from jump to finish, you may not see the end of the ball game on the court. You might be with me on the sidelines. So I think for those two guys, you have to be a little bit more cautious because the Aussies are very meticulous in their passing acumen. And I think that's why they got to be a little bit more respectful for what Australia can bring on the court and not get too overexcited and create too many unforced fouls on themselves.
I thought that referee was super whistle happy too in the Canadian-Greece game. But you know, I was just gonna say, but he was trying to set the tone. He was like, "Hey,
yeah.
You got
to get a better team on the field post All-Star breaks, because the one thing that you know from the Yankees and the Orioles is what, Ben? You're going to fight with each other throughout the stretch here, and you want home field advantage.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
You know, this guy is the mad scientist. I mean, he's all about green density. So in my mind, I feel like he's going to have the green speeds dialed in, and the angles he needs to land them and all that sort of stuff. I feel like he's going to be a good spot and playing the course well, and he's going to be hitting.
All right, we got a little mini segment here before the break that's coming up. So me and Mo Carl were just talking about the Canada-Australia game. So, Mo, I'm going to lay the 5.5 points with Canada. As far as the player prop is concerned, listen, SGA might be a little bit high at 23.5. He had 21 in the first game. He was actually passing the ball a lot. He wasn't needed to go off, but I think that he could tonight. RJ Barrett's prop was 14.5 in the last game. It's 17.5 tonight, but I think Barrett probably gets like 19 tonight. I like Josh Giddey, guys, over 31.5 points, rebounds, and assists. I like Patty Mills, over 2.5 3-point shots made. And I don't want to pick on our boy Dwight Powell, but his prop is over under 5.5. He's not going to score 6 points, all right, tonight. So Powell will not score 6 points tonight. So, Mo, final score for you. We got 30 seconds before the break. We'll hit some more on the other side, but Canada, Australia, I say Canada by like 8 to 10 points. What do you say?
I got Canada by 7+.
All right, so they cover the number. You think it's a high-scoring game? Because the Canada Greece is a low-scoring game.
I think mid-90s we're looking at.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking 90, 94, 82 type of deal. It's sort of right around the number. It's a high number, 179.5.
It's an incredible setup here, incredible matchmaking, incredible storytelling. Oh, you had to come here. All these fighters that step in here are warriors, and all have my respect. And I'm into this game, we'll be into this, And
we are live here in the Maverick Center, here in Salt Lake City. What a night it is going to be. Historic indeed for BKFC 56.
Whoever's the king of violence right here, this is going to be a great fight.
Combat fighting in its purest form, bare knuckle fighting in the city of angels.
We've got the biggest announcement in the BKFC history we're about to make, so let's make that announcement.
What's up, Knucklemania? The notorious Conor McGregor here. Ladies and gentlemen, the huge announcement that I have for you today. Conor McGregor, myself, and McGregor Sports and Entertainment is now an owner of Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. Welcome to the big leagues. David Feldman, baby, we did it.
He's now an owner of BKFC with us, and we're going to take this motherfucking thing all the way to the top now.
This is SportsRage. I'm Morency. We're talking Olympic basketball right now. I want to get to a couple other Olympic events. NFL football is on Thursday night, too. The Hall of Fame game is finally here. The countdown is nearly complete. NFL football is back. But we're just taking a look at the basketball right now. Me and Mo both agreed on the first two games. As far as Greece winning, Canada winning, both of them covering the point spread. France and Japan's a little trickier here, Mo. 17.5 point spread. Totals 164. I brought this up earlier in the program. France are really good defensively. You've got Rudy Gobert. You've got Victor Wembanyama. I don't think it's going to be easy for Japan to score. France haven't looked great offensively, but they're sort of just grinding teams out. You know, they got the win in the first game. They're going to win this game. I'm not really ready to lay 17.5 points, though, Mo. It's a lot of points. And Germany looked good as well, man. Germany are 12.5-point favorites against Brazil. I don't see any upsets in the making here, but what do you think? Do you think they're both blowouts, or do you think either one of these games are close?
Yeah, it's like a rich croissant there. I don't think the French are going to cover that 17.5-point spread. I think it's just too high for my liking. I think they win by 10 plus. And I think Germany, you're right, they probably look the most impressive team on the opening day of the men's competition for basketball. So I think the Germans will have a chance to do very well in terms of their game against Brazil, and they should win rather comfortably over the Brazilians.
So you and I talked about South Sudan, and we're shocked that, we were like, wow, look what they did against the U.S. I jumped on the wagon against Puerto Rico, and what an emotional
game.
Yeah,
we called that. We said it.
Well, what an emotional win. You're right, and what a great story, Mo. Luol Deng, former Chicago Bull, is actually funding the team. There's no federation. There's no Olympic committee or anything like that. Luol Deng is the federation. He's the South Sudanese Basketball Federation. And he pays for their uniforms. He pays for their hotel rooms. He pays for everything for this national team out of pride. It's a great story. And they win the game against Puerto Rico. And rather convincingly. Alvarado got hurt in the game. He came back in the game, but very impressive win. They nearly knocked off the USA, but now they play again. And the United States are 29.5-point favorites coming off their rout against Serbia. Now the Americans know that the Sudanese can play, the South Sudanese can ball. What do you make of this one? Would you be willing to lay 30 points, Mo? Are the U.S. going to smoke them, or does South Sudan cover 29.5 points?
No, the Americans are going to rip them apart. Jason Tatum didn't play the first game, right? Tatum will play the second game, and he'll go for 30 himself. But I just think that, we look at basketball, Gabe, from a global perspective, right? I think you might have brought up last week. In 92, there was, 9 international NBA players? Over 60 plus, right?
63.
So 63, 64, whatever it is, right? So the quality of play has grown immensely in the last 30 plus years of the Dream Team's debut. I think the eyeballs will be on how South Sudan can kind of play the first 5 to 8 minutes of that ball game, right? Can they keep it up and keep it within range? If they don't keep it within 8 points going towards the end of the first quarter game, the Americans are going to have control of this ball game and really have Steve Kerr rotate his players because, again, he didn't play Tatum, but he played other guys who were lesser talented than Jason Tatum because of what he had to go up against Serbia. But this style of play that South Sudan will play against the Americans fits the American flow. And I think Tatum will have a good game. I think Kevin Durant may not have what he did against Serbia on the weekend, but he will still have his influence. So I think for Steve Kerr, it's not a gimme, but I think it's a lot more easier to say I can manage my minutes for a lot of these guys as they play 6 games in the next 10, 12 days of this tournament up ahead.
I would say, too, if you're South Sudan, I'd be concerned about the first 5 minutes of this game because the U.S., they didn't, they're going to know. They're going to want to, just break their will early. Oh, you guys nearly beat us. We got ripped for it. I can see the Americans coming out hot in this game. So the U.S. guys laying 29.5 points. That game is on Wednesday at noon Eastern, actually. So a pretty reasonable time for that one.
Yeah.
I should say, 3 Eastern, noon Pacific. I'm in the West Coast, so I get stuck in. The world doesn't revolve around Eastern time zone, people. But it's 3 Eastern, noon Pacific for the U.S. game. So, Mo, massive upsets today. Specifically, Canada beating France in the women's rugby sevens.
Absolutely.
France were the pre-tournament favorites. It's in France. France won their first 3 games by a combined 92 points, Mo. They were 19.5-point favorites in this game, and Canada beats them. And the United States beats Great Britain today. Not such a massive upset, but the U.S. women rugby 7 team never have gotten this far either. They play New Zealand in the semifinals in the morning. They're 18.5-point underdogs. And the Canadian women today, the girls who are 19.5-point underdogs against France and won the game outright, getting 17.5. USA are getting 18.5 against New Zealand. Canada are getting 17.5 against Australia. Australia absolutely murdered Ireland today, Mo. Does the glass slipper break tomorrow for Canada in the morning against Australia, or do they have another upset in them?
Respectfully, yes, it will. I watched
the
Irish. Yeah, I watched Australia play, Gabe, after that Canada game, and they look like a machine now. They look like Alabama of rugby sevens in the women's division, Gabe, and how they were able to manhandle or dominate the Irish. But you know what, Gabe? When you look at that Canada moment here, it's good for the sport because everyone wants to build in sports here, right? And this could be a moment that says we look back 20 years down the road and say this is the moment where women's rugby in Canada grew because of what they did against the French. And I think at this point, this sport, even though it's going to be a short window for them to have that spotlight on them, is going to bring more eyeballs to them down the road. And the intrigue and curiosity will grow for the sport moving forward.
Well, think for the U.S., bro. If they could, they're in tough against New Zealand as well. Let's call it out for what it is.
Easy.
No, but especially leading in, you're right, like putting some eyeball because going into LA 2028. Because one thing about that sport, Mo, it is super entertaining. It's fast, and it's almost too fast. I think the game should be a little longer. Like if you're the favorite, Mo, 7-minute halves, bro. It's 14 minutes, so that's the whole thing. If you're an underdog, Mo, you score early, bro. It really change the dynamic of these games. Like underdogs really have a chance in this stuff because it's so quick. Right? More will wrap up with Mo on the other side. This is SportsRage.
What has happened? What has transpired here at the First Bank Center here in Denver, Colorado? It wasn't just a big night of fight. It was a big night of memorable moments. Conor McGregor with us here in Denver, Colorado. Look, left hand from Ron Paul. Right hand, right back from Mike Perry.
Can I get a face-off with Conor McGregor, man?
It's an incredible setup here, incredible matchmaking, incredible storytelling. Oh, you had to come here. All these fighters that step in here are warriors, and I have my respect. And I'm into this game, I'll be into this,
And we are live here in the Maverick Center here in Salt Lake City. What a night. It is going to be historic indeed for BKFC 56.
Whoever's the king of violence right here, this is going to be a great fight.
Perry on the turn. Right hand from Mike Perry. Double jab. Who's the king of violence?
Combat fighting in its purest form, bare knuckle fighting in the city of angels.
We've got the biggest announcement in the BKFC history we're about to make, so let's make that announcement.
What's up, Knucklemania? The notorious Conor McGregor here. Ladies and gentlemen, the huge announcement that I have for you today. Conor McGregor, myself, and McGregor Sports and Entertainment is now an owner of Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. Welcome to the big leagues. David Feldman, baby, we did it.
He's now an owner of BKFC with us, and we're going to take this motherfucking thing all the way to the top now.
Well, the Olympics have only been on for a couple of days. They're out of food there, but it feels like it's been like a taxing marathon already for us. But track and field really hasn't started yet. Individual women's gymnastics is always a big time deal. We have more big time swimming coming up. But as far as the soccer is concerned, a lot of people wondered what we were going to get from this United States team. Right, they're a young team. They bring in a new coach from Chelsea. They disappointed at the Women's World Cup. They were under a lot of pressure. They didn't deal with it well. They kind of flew under the radar a little bit. They were the pre-tournament favorites. Well, the odds makers, they were the favorites, but it didn't seem like people were talking about them as much coming into these games. So They didn't have as much sort of pressure, it seemed, on them. But nice start for the American women so far. They're looking the part here, Mo. Spain, though, man, the defending World Cup champion, still alive. And then you get this Canadian story, which they get deducted 6 points because of the drone stuff. I think it was a harsh and over that crazy punishment by the Olympic Committee here. Canada's appealing it. I don't really know what that's going to do. They're running out of time here, but Canada's still alive, bro. And if they beat, if they're able to beat Colombia, they're going to advance, which is be quite a story, Mo. And I think people would start pulling for them because they would feel like they've been sort of picked on a little bit. Like, people love comeback stories and redemption stories, bro. And it seems like the girls are doing this us against the world thing right now.
Yeah, I can't wait for Disney to come out with the movie with Team Canada's women's squad winning gold again. But I think, look, here's the thing, Gabe, just quickly before we get to this point here. They're not going to find Beth Priestman until they get more evidence that she did commit a foul in this whole process. Because if they fire her now, they fire without cause. So I think that's going to be something they're going to wait a little bit longer before they do anything with her. I think this current women's team, amidst the allegations, Gabe, and controversy, this is a very good women's team, right? After what happened last year at the World Cup, where they didn't get out group stage, they had a bit of a chip on their shoulder that we were embarrassed and didn't play well. They're playing their best football right now. And I certainly believe that they will be in that medal conversation. I don't think they win gold or silver. I think bronze might be their likely target of what they can do at this games this year with their current squad that they have.
One thing that both the U.S. team able to finish, although, you know, the level of competition, you know, they've been big favorites in the games. But very impressive, Mo, that Canada, the Canadian women, showing much more finish and aggression, like inside the final third. Like, they attack. They used to sort of be a lot of passing around, and you know what I mean? Like, no one wanted the shot. They would look for Yeah, they were never always looking for the perfect shot. No one was like, all right, girls, like, you're 20 yards away now. Somebody make a play now. We got the ball this far, but you got to make a play now. Now they're more aggressive, and their finishing touch has been much better. I got to give them credit for that. So it's been a great story. Can't wait to see the track and field starting as well, Mo. And watch water polo, bro. That's a ruthless sport, man. So much contact under the water. A lot of fun to watch water polo.
I can't wait. I'm going to get more immersed. I was so busy with CEBL stuff over the weekend, but I can't wait for tomorrow's games. Going to flip around the channel, see what's out there, but I definitely watch water polo and men's volleyball as well. That's going to happen as well on Tuesday.
Hey, we got about a minute here before I let you go, but Thursday night, the Hall of Fame game. The Bears haven't announced their plan yet. They actually said they're going to tell everybody on Tuesday. So one thing I like about the preseason as a betting man, coaches are pretty open with their plans. So Eberflus said, tune in tomorrow. We're going to let everyone know our playing plans. But they did leak that they're modeling C.J. Stroud's preseason, and that they want Caleb Williams to play in between 45 and 65 plays in the preseason. Caleb Williams was quoted tonight stating that he is pushing and wants to play on Thursday night. Eberflus said they're going to let people know tomorrow. I said earlier I believe that Caleb Williams will play 2 series. Mo, what's your prediction? How long does Caleb play? Or does he play, in your opinion? I say he plays 2 series.
I agree. Minimum 2, max 3. They probably give him 20 to 25 plays if they can sustain long-term drives. If they do have 2 long-term drives, that's it. That's all for him, and they'll get ready for the weeks 2 of the preseason and give him more repetitions then. Yeah,
you know what? It's a unique situation. You don't want to get him hurt, but at the same point in time, he's never played before, so he's got to play. So I'm like, you've got to all right, like he's got to take a couple of snaps here. I'm with you, Mo. I said earlier, I think he'll play. Nothing extreme. Quick hands off, maybe a couple of rollouts, quick passes. Don't get hit. Get him out of there. Just let him get his feet wet and get a taste of playing NFL football, even if it is the Hall of Fame game. We're already out of time. Follow me on Twitter at SportsRage. Ton of Olympic picks for you. Other than that, you're on your own. Oh, take Alex E to win the triathlon. Oh, perfect. All right, Mo, fun stuff, buddy. Thanks, man. I enjoyed it. Enjoy the games. Okay.